Chapter 32, Conflict. In Wenlijian's heart, she was gnashing her teeth in hatred towards Yi Jingya's family. She thought that they were causing trouble and wanted to make her give up her money. "Mom, I'll go too." Xiao Ai excitedly walked in front of Wenlijian. Although Wenlijian was very strong, she truly loved Xiao Ai, like the eyes that had to be protected and sheltered. Therefore, even though Xiao Ai was about to graduate from university, her personality was still very childish. As soon as she reached the door, Xiao Xian walked over with a gloomy expression, scaring Wenlijian to jump, looking around a bit. "What's going on?" The usually charming, gentle, and soft-spoken person has now turned into a ghost's appearance. She whispered, "I knew her mother was also this kind of person," smiling so gently in front of others, not knowing what she was thinking inside. Finally, she looked at her daughter with satisfaction. Her daughter was still so good. "Grandpa, Grandma." No matter how angry Xiao Xian was, she didn't dare to act recklessly in front of the old man. She knew who would guarantee her future life. Old Master Qiao really didn't have the mood to pay attention to others at this moment. Although his expression was like an old monk in meditation, his mind was already outside the door, waiting for that person to come. Before the person had arrived, Yi Jingya's characteristic gentle voice had already reached the ears of the people sitting in the living room. "Be careful, this is the stairs, be really good." No matter how gentle Yi Jingya was, the three little darlings didn't pay any attention, just obediently following their mother, constantly looking around, not secretly talking, at this moment looking very politely, having been educated by Du Rua since childhood. Yi Jingya felt that the smile on her face was about to burst. These three damned little brats were just as difficult to control as their mother. No matter what she said, no matter how she coaxed, they didn't give her a good look, not even a single eye to look at her, almost biting her. "Sister-in-law, you're all here?" Yi Jingya saw Wenlijian at the door, and immediately went to greet her. The smile on her face almost dazzled Wenlijian. She was secretly on guard. There was nothing to flatter, not to be deceitful or a thief. "Hello, long time no see." Du Rua nodded to her, greeting. Only then did she look at the person behind them. Qiao Rua? Perhaps she also felt that her voice was too loud, immediately covered her mouth, smiled awkwardly, glanced at the three delicate and adorable little ones below, and looked at Du Rua in surprise. It's my three little darlings." Mentioning the child, the smile on Du Rua's face became a bit more sincere. Wenlijian secretly clicked her tongue. This granddaughter grew more and more outstanding. Her beauty was even brighter than that of her deceased sister-in-law. Rua, hurry up and come in, your grandfather is waiting." Xiao Ligua couldn't bear to see them standing outside the door wasting time. He could only force a smile and urge them. "That's right, the whole family, everyone is waiting." Wenlijian hurriedly nodded, in a very good mood following behind, secretly happy in her heart. It turned out that they found a rich person. If she didn't need to pay herself, she would happily watch the excitement from the side. In the living room, the group of people sitting there saw Du Rua early. Their expressions were different. Du Rua walked to the main seat in front, slightly turned around. "Grandpa, Grandma." Du Rua looked at the old man sitting in the main seat, looking healthy as ever, but his face carried a bit of darkness, afraid that he was disturbed by the recent Xiao family matter. However, she secretly shrugged. If they hoped that she would be the one to save them, sorry, miscalculation. With the Qiao family, she would not throw stones into the well, but she would absolutely not lend a hand to help. The three children blinked. Chi Hao even used his chubby hand to scratch his head, a bit dizzy. Why did his mother call this old man grandpa? Du Rua lowered her head, she smiled and said, "Just say hello." "Hello." The small, sweet, innocent mouth said hello. In the end, they even bowed and bowed. It was the short, round, weak body that made such a serious gesture, blinking and looking quite adorable. Old Master Qiao's eyes flashed. What did this mean? On the other side, the juniors let out a few cold laughs. These past few years of not returning, even the way they address each other has decreased. Bai Linglin played with a few strands of hair, jokingly looking at the woman standing in the living room. Her heart couldn't help but feel sour. This woman, wherever she appeared, she would always attract the attention of others. The young people had been quietly discussing since Du Rua entered the door. especially those who had just joined this family. The new daughter-in-law and new son-in-law had never seen her before. To her, they had only heard of such a person. As for her, no one in the Chow family had talked about her, so they didn't know much, didn't expect. Today when they saw her, they discovered the Chow family had actually hidden such an outstanding figure. This is? A daughter-in-law couldn't help but look at the eldest son of the Chow family curiously, then gossiped towards her husband, hoping to get some news. One of her cousin's hands was placed on her mouth, signaling for silence. Everyone held their breath, waiting for the situation to develop. Rua, look at this, it's been 6 years since we last saw each other, let grandma take a look. Old Madam Chow knew that the old man was conceited, and was very angry inside, so she had no choice but to step forward to mediate. Looking Rua up and down, this 6 years since we last saw each other, you've gotten so skinny. With these words of Madam Chow, is it that our Chi family mistreats my wife? A magnetic male voice carrying laughter came from the door. Daddy. The little ones heard the sound, and knew it was their daddy, and immediately turned their heads, their short, chubby little legs walking towards the person who had just arrived. Everyone looked back at the same time, only to see a pair of long, strong legs walking into the living room, entering a man wearing a white shirt, leisurely, cold but still handsome. His face at this moment carried a doting smile, making everyone stunned. Qishan patted the heads of the 3 loyal puppies in admiration. They had just separated not long ago, but now they were like little missiles rushing towards him. That's right, my treasures. He hugged Chiyu, and brought the other 2 towards his wife. Very fast. Rua's eyes instantly softened a lot. From the moment she saw this man looking at her, her nervous eyes became a puddle of water. Qishan proudly raised his chin. This is Rua's husband? Old Madam Chow observed him for a bit, secretly shocked, although she heard her husband say that her granddaughter married very well, but in her heart she still felt that this granddaughter leaving the Chow family, how could it be good? Qishan heard this, immediately turned around, a smile on his face, slightly bowed his head. Hello everyone, first time meeting officially. If it was like before, every woman had a handkerchief in their hand, she was afraid that most of the handkerchiefs were now torn to pieces. Among them Yi Jingya and Xiao Xian were the most miserable. Xiao Xian originally thought that the husband's family she had chosen was already glorious enough, already enviable enough, already happy enough. She didn't expect that in the end she would still be suppressed by Rua. Seeing the family of 5 in front of her happily and harmoniously, she bit her lip tightly. Jealousy in her heart was growing like a rattan vine crazily. Qishan's arrival made it impossible for old Master Chow to continue to keep his face cold. His expression also slowed down, saying the first sentence since Rua entered, sit down. Rua and Qishan leisurely sat across from him, drinking tea. For a short while, no one opened their mouths to speak. Qishan's cold face at this moment had no expression, his eyes were narrowed without ripples. He also did not speak, quietly holding his child sitting next to his wife. No need to say anything, just sitting there, is Rua's solid support. The naive Chow family members were already aware of this point, all lowered their eyes, wondering. Rua saw this, smiled slightly. I wonder what's the matter of finding me back. It was rare for Qishan to be with his family together. She didn't want to waste time with the Chow family. Frowning, old Master Chow heavily tapped his cane on the ground, his voice lowered, his tone unhappy as he said, if there's nothing, there's no need to go back. This child. Yi Jingya was worried that old Master Chow would let them leave because of his pride, so she quickly laughed and complained, this place is still your maternal home. You haven't returned for 6 years, and you didn't even tell us about your marriage. Quickly apologize to Grandpa. That's right, pour a cup of tea for Grandpa with your husband. The Chow family's third aunt echoed, still not forgetting to size up Qishan a few times. Qishan was here, and the Chow family's third aunt didn't dare to be as forceful as usual. Seeing that person's decisiveness and ability, was she the kind of small woman who could stop him? Rua was surprised and laughed. Looking at her grandfather's serious face, she picked up a cup of tea on the table. Looking at everyone on the side laughing with understanding, she took a sip herself, not looking at the anger on her grandfather's face. The heat from the teacup made her expression a little vague. If you guys came back to find me because of this, I think we have nothing to talk about. TSK, the juniors were all surprised, all slightly curled their mouths. What a formidable courage. The second aunt of the Chow family had a serious face, angrily saying, "Why are you talking to Grandpa like that?" Du Rua pretended not to hear, continued, "If it's because of that money," then looked at Xiao Ligua and Eugenia. "I'm really sorry, I don't have a single cent." Du Rua. Xiao Ligua immediately flew into a rage, pointing his finger at her face. Old Master Chow raised his hand, stopping Xiao Ligua's words that were about to come out. "You already know, so why do you still want to follow me back?" Thinking that his granddaughter was thinking one thing and saying another. Old Master Chow looked at Du Rua with a tolerant gaze, feeling in his heart that she was feeling wronged because the Chow family hadn't come to look for her these past few years, so she was angry. Du Rua looked at him, not knowing the truth. "I'm coming back, to let you know my attitude." She didn't know why the other party's gaze suddenly became so strange. "What a white-eyed wolf, Du Rua, you were raised by our Chow family, the money to raise you, should be enough to exchange for your money this time." Bai Linglin glanced at Qishan who was sitting upright, wanting to suffocate Du Rua, even if the Chow family really apologized to Du Rua, but she was a descendant of the Chow family. If she saw someone dying and did not save them, who would still feel that Du Rua had a conscience? Qishan sat up straight and was about to open his mouth, but was reassured by Du Rua's gaze. He lowered his eyes and stroked her jade finger that was placed in his hand. He understood his wife's meaning. In this fight, she wanted to fight herself, and he only needed to be behind her to give her the greatest support. He was like a big, sturdy mountain sitting there, his wife always right appearance making Bai Linglin grit her teeth in anger. "Grandpa also thinks so?" Calming her husband who was about to explode, she completely ignored Xiao Ligua, looking towards her grandfather. The smile on her face was gone. After such a long time had passed, her hatred towards the Chow family had long since dissipated, and she also wanted to completely distance herself from the Chow family. However, there were two facts before her eyes: she had the Chow family's bloodline, and they were truly sorry to her and her mother. Therefore, the two were in conflict. She would not take action against them because of what they had done to her in the past life, nor would she take action to help them because she was the Chow family's granddaughter. If the Chow family used the excuse of raising her to restrain her, then that would be truly apologetic, regardless of whether it was Du Xiaoxiao, her mother, or the one who had suffered all this family's pain, Du Rua. Both had already made thorough preparations for today. Old Master Chow was suddenly startled by Du Rua's attentive gaze, but he only felt that she couldn't possibly know so clearly, and said earnestly, "You ran away from home these past few years and got married without permission. We won't pursue this matter, but your father is in trouble right now, and as his daughter, there's no reason not to help. Even if you resent your father for marrying Auntie Yi, you were raised by our Chow family, so you must remember this kindness." Qishan couldn't help but slightly frown. He didn't think that old Master Chow would actually say this. How could Du Rua still refuse? It seemed that this Chow family didn't want to be soft-hearted, they wanted to be hard-hearted. His wife hadn't said anything yet. He could only secretly feel anxious in his heart, afraid of disturbing his wife's plans. Sure enough, Du Rua didn't have any change in expression after hearing this. Instead she rubbed her nose, and then with a trace of a strange smile said, "In the safe of the Swiss bank, I found that mother gave me another piece of information." Old Master Chow and Xiao Ligua glanced at each other, not knowing the truth as they looked towards Du Rua. Du Rua stroked the teacup in her hand, closed her eyes slightly, and said softly, "Inside are some of Mother's diaries, and..." Looking at the two of them, "The financial reports since marrying into the Chow family, everything is complete, everything is listed." Although she said she was smiling, a trace of self-mockery appeared in the depths of her eyes. In the end, she was very stupid, so she didn't even notice everything her mother did for her. As soon as these words were spoken, it was no less than throwing down a thunderclap on the Chow family. "You." Old Master Chow's eyes widened. He did not think that his respectful daughter-in-law would be so defensive towards the Chow family. "Grandfather, from the time I was born until now, I have never used a single cent of the Chow family's money." Her sharp eyes looked towards Chow Shenbang. if it must be counted, it is the Chow family that owes the Du family. Although those few things did not have any specific legal provisions, but if they were to be done, it would definitely be a fatal blow to the Chow family. Yi Jingyao opened her mouth wide in surprise, looking towards Chow Ligua, seeing that he was also blocked and speechless, unable to answer, her head buzzed, empty. Xiao Xian quickly supported Yi Jingyao's body that was about to fall. Du Rua, even if that's the case, you still have to have money for upbringing, this is your father, don't you need to pay for upbringing? The third daughter of the Chow family disregarded everything, making up a story that just made sense. She knew that if Du Rua didn't pay, then they would have to pay. The upbringing money needs more than 16 million? Du Rua pondered and said. Xiao Xian saw that Du Rua knew everything, but still returned, standing here laughing at them, feeling angry in her heart, immediately went in front of her, raised her hand to slap her, but at the moment she made a move, Qishan caught her, waved his hand, and the whole person fell to the side. His face was cold, solemnly staring at Xiao Xian, not knowing anything, but wanting to slap his wife, even if she was a woman, he could not bear it. Xiao Xian struggled to sit on the ground, not paying attention to the pain in her hand, her eyes filled with resentment as she looked at Du Rua. We will sue you in court. If a father owes a debt, then the daughter must repay the debt to her father, that's natural. What's the reason? Du Rua asked indifferently, frowning, as if suddenly enlightened, because I didn't agree to give Dad money to compensate for the embezzlement? Looking at Du Rua's innocent expression that could be killed immediately, Qishan couldn't help but feel his mind was in turmoil. Why was her expression so adorable, yet he felt his wife was so handsome? TSK. Although the little ones didn't know what was going on, it didn't stop them from blinking and looking at their mother. Xiao Xian was choked, her chest heaving violently, and she couldn't speak in the end. In her heart, she was defeated. Filing a lawsuit in court was just a matter of blurting out that topic. She knew in her heart that it was impossible. Xiao Zhenbang pressed his heart, his eyes staring at this granddaughter as if he had never realized it until now. Du Rua, even if I open my mouth to beg you, you still don't want to help. Old Master Qiao didn't think that Du Rua would be so forceful, he could only soften his voice, hoping that by looking at his face, she could help. Du Rua turned around and looked at Old Master Qiao. Grandpa? A hint of sarcasm flashed in her eyes. If she still hated, in the Qiao family, the ones she hated the most were not Yi Jingya and her mother, but Qiao Ligua and Xiao Zhenbang. With such a good grandfather and father, how could she help? Everyone looked at Du Rua, only to see those beautiful lips gently opening and closing, gently but without losing their determination. She spat out 3 words, I'm sorry. You rebellious girl. Xiao Ligua immediately sat on the sofa, feeling a piece of darkness in front of him. He could only curse Du Rua unfilially. Yi Jingya cried silently at the side. She did not understand why the life she had planned for more than 20 years, how could it turn into this state? But in a flash, Old Master Qiao seemed to understand. As if he had already expected this answer, his face did not show any expression. I know, you go back. Dad? Dad? Grandpa? Grandpa Qiao did not hear this urging sound, waved his hand at Du Rua, signaling her to leave early. Qishan raised his eyebrows unexpectedly. In his heart he could not help but praise, the older the ginger, the spicier. However, he looked around at the Qiao family, their expressions were a bit different. No matter how powerful the person, not educating their children, meeting such a bunch of stupid, selfish, greedy people, in a normal family, being able to maintain it would already make them want to laugh. Du Rua stared at her grandfather for a long time, judging that this time she had been able to escape from the Qiao family's entanglement. As if she had obtained the desired answer, Du Rua respectfully stood up. We will leave first. Bringing the 3 little ones and their father, who had already been a little impatient, she left the Qiao family. Walking out of the Qiao family's main door, in a good mood? Qishan turned around and stole a kiss from her. That's right. Du Rua turned her head to look at the Qiao family behind her, her lips curled up. Your grandfather. Qishan raised a finger. Du Rua jokingly curled her lips, seemingly talking to herself. If he wasn't so powerful, how could there be the Qiao family today? Her grandfather was best at observing the situation. He understood from her words that she was persistent, He didn't force her step by step, he knew that doing so would push her away completely. He completely understood, her attitude could not be reversed. Now she was no longer the Du Rua who only relied on money. The Du family had no one to protect her, but the Du Rua who had a military husband's family. He understood her very well, that child valued feelings the most. In this life she had the blood of the Chow family, as long as she was not completely resolute, with her here. Even if the Chow family failed, the Chow family would definitely not lose. In the ear of the old master, Chow heard the children questioning his decision, sighed in his heart, bang a sound, he heavily threw the cup on the table, his ears immediately restored to peace. Everyone go home, the Lap Kwok couple follow me to the study. After he finished speaking the next sentence, he turned around and left, leaving behind a group of people looking at each other.